Well, boys, looks like you started the fun without me.
You're all sick. Every last one of you.
We're going to need a bigger gun.
What's the matter? You scared of things that go boom, boom, boom?
Give me one goddamn reason why I shouldn't blow your goddamn brains all over that goddamn wall.
My name is Eric, and I'm here today with resident musician Michael Kester.
Oh yeah, I guess that does apply today.
For another episode of Double Feature.
Yeah.
It's a live music that makes things explode episode of
Yes.
Double Feature.
Wow.
It's not spontaneous. There's a cause.
Yeah, you
to
really
the
honed
explosion.
it in.
We have some cult musical comedies
Yeah.
today.
There's
What
another one.
are those?
We're going to do This is Spinal Tap and then Rock and Roll High School.
So if you haven't seen these two movies, pretty infamous movies.
Yeah.
I hadn't seen these two movies.
You hadn't seen either of them?
I hadn't seen either of them. Can you believe that?
Huh.
Yeah, we got a Christopher Guest movie. We have a fucking Ramones movie. I have
Yeah.
not seen either of these
Yeah.
films. If you are like I once was,
Yeah, there
then
you go.
you want to use the chapters built into our show to skip over the film you haven't seen. Or if you just don't want to hear us talk about one of the films, also possible. If you
you've-
find that this show is sucking at some point,
Right.
you can hit skip and you can go to the next part of the show where hopefully we will have picked up our game a little bit.
Yeah.
Sounds like a legitimate plan.
I think so.
It'll probably still suck at that point. I mean, if it just goes downhill from here. Once we get past the chapters, I don't really know what we're doing from there. This part, I feel like I've gotten pretty good. After this, I got nothing. So we'll start with This is Spinal Tap from the 80s. This is our 80s film
This is
today.
an 80s flick. It's a cult film. It is one
I
of...
can call this Spinal Tap, right? No
yeah,
one's going to
everybody's...
get mad at me.
Spinal Tap, totally
It's just
fine.
Spinal Tap. It's fine.
It's-
I'm pronouncing the umlaut. You can hear that
Yeah,
on the end, right?
yeah,
Okay,
absolutely.
good.
It's possibly one of the biggest cult films of all time. It's up there with Rocky Horror, though there's fewer people who dress up like it and
Right.
go throw bread at each other.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. Probably you could use some of the same costumes,
Yeah,
I think.
it could
Specifically
change
if you play bass.
But Spinal Tap was one of the early Christopher Guest movies. Christopher Guest is he played Nigel Tufnell in this film,
Sure,
and he didn't
sure.
direct, but he wrote it with the other guys, with Michael McKean and Harry Shearer and
Yeah.
Rob Reiner. But Christopher Guest is notable as being that guy who makes those funny mockumentaries
Right.
that come out every 5 years.
Yeah, right.
Best in Show, A Mighty Wind.
Yeah.
Movies where people are doing
For your
typically...
consideration, man. You
Yeah.
can't forget that one.
That's the other one.
Yeah.
People are doing typically mundane things, and then goofy people are trying to have a good time with it.
Yeah, right.
Um,
I love, the subjects of these documentaries. You hear about these things, and it could either be an obscure documentary or it could be something he's made. You don't always come to the documentary going, well, that's about a funny topic.
Sure.
You know what I mean? This one is probably the most obvious for,
Yeah.
we'll make what did Rob Reiner's character call it?
Rockumentary.
Thank you. Rockumentary. Oh my God. But there's something like Best in Show, you find these things that sometimes you make documentaries about obscure stuff. Some of the best documentaries I can think of were things, let's just even look at stuff we've done on the show, right? King of Kong
Yeah,
pops
absolutely.
out immediately,
Sure,
or
and
something
that-
like Murder
yeah.
Ball.
Exit Through the Gift Shop.
Sure. They all Exit Through the Gift Shop. I mean, now we're kind of running the gamut here, right? Because Exit Through the Gift Shop, we're going to cover an entire genre of
Sure.
arts, an entire medium, really,
Right.
of art.
Whereas
And then you
King of
move-
Kong is the Donkey Kong high score.
Yeah,
Murder
one
Ball.
specific
Yeah.
bookkeeper's Donkey Kong high score. So, you kind of make a documentary wherever you find a compelling story. And here I think you can almost feel these guys having these conversations and going, oh, there's something funny to that.
Yeah.
I think we could do something with that. And Spinal Tap comes really before any of those, well, that'd be funny. I guess let's do a
Sure.
documentary about that. This is, it seems like a documentary epic.
Yeah, it does. And the thing about Christopher Guest movies, and that really transcends all of them, is he's got this... So we've talked about it with Rodriguez, Tarantino. The kind of... I don't know, the filmmaker...
He's got a troupe.
Yeah, it's a troupe. That's the word I was looking for.
It's a group of people who
It's-
show up in all of these things.
Yeah, well, him and Michael McKean are pretty much the staples. And
Right.
Christopher Guest started directing shortly after this. He
Sure.
started directing the movies that they were writing. Rob Reiner tends to be involved. Harry Shearer tends to be in it.
You know who's strangely not in? I mean, you think back to like Best of Show or Waiting for Guffman, or really all of the movies you mentioned. Eugene Levy writes basically all of those with Christopher Guest. I don't think any Eugene Levy here. Not yet.
Definitely not in Spinal Tap.
Yeah, but then shows up in all of these other movies. So he's kind of the rare exception to a lot of the actors that would continue to work with Christopher Guest in the other movies. I guess a little less Rob Reiner and a little more Eugene Levy.
Well, and I think that's a lot of the mechanic is having somebody else to help him write, and kind of, because the thing is it's a matter of if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Right. So if something like Spinal Tap happens and everybody in the fucking world thinks, I mean, there are people going around touting best film of all time.
Yeah. Right.
What was that review you were telling me about?
Well, and it's not alone. There's a IGN review that's 11 out of 11, I think. I'm pretty sure IMDb has it listed same way. There's Rotten Tomatoes doesn't, but they operate on a 5. What is it, a splat scale? Something
splats. I remember last year in November of 2011, on the 11th of November, everybody was touting Nigel Tuffman Day.
Oh yeah,
it is Nigel Tuffman Day today. Everybody's shouting from the roof. I saw a bunch of shit on the internet, but
it's weird. I feel like fans almost do the film a disservice by picking up the 11 joke.
The 11 joke is the weakest part of the film.
it's the broad comedy.
Yeah, it is. Because I was telling you, because this is the second time I've seen it ever. Mm-hmm. And the things that stand out to me are, first off, the 2 songs, Big Bottom Girls or whatever it's fucking called.
That's
Big
definitely
Bottom.
not the name of the song.
What's it called?
But I don't know what it's called. It's
Big
probably
Bottom.
Called Big Bottom. That's the one. Yeah, it is Big Bottom because it's the one with the 3 basses.
4 basses.
Is it 4 basses?
He's got a double bass.
Oh, that doesn't count. No, he's got a double neck bass.
Yeah.
Double bass is Saint Anger, I think.
Yeah.
Double bass.
So
sorry, that's how you know it's metal, man. It's got a double bass.
The multiple bass thing had me rolling with laughter.
It sounds like the song is all bass.
It is. It is all bass.
So it's okay, right?
I don't know if you read in the credits because I was checking to verify, but all of the musicians on stage are performing. They recorded the songs.
Good, yeah.
So they're playing the songs.
Well, they've done live shows as Spinal Tap before, so clearly they know how to play the song.
So there's Big Bottom, which I love, and then I don't know the name of the song that they're playing. But
Can we also mention just briefly that having all bass is a fitting arrangement for a song called Big Bottom? It gives it this funny kind of like double meaning.
It's hilarious.
I love that. Trey Parker and Matt Stone must be huge Spinal Tap fans. If for no other reason than the accomplishment of the film Spinal Tap. You know, a bunch of comedians get together, form a band for this fake documentary that then becomes kind of a real documentary about the formation of a band for a fake documentary because these guys then go off and create albums and, you know, play shows.
It's amazing. And then the other thing that I love is, I don't remember the name of the song, but the one where Harry Shearer's character gets stuck in the cocoon.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for the entire song until the end.
And then he gets out and then he just has to scurry back in. And oh my God. I think Harry Shearer is probably the sleeper highlight of the film.
He is. So he has that moment, which is kind of a physical comedy moment. And there aren't a lot of those.
No, there's not.
In the film, but there's a couple. But he also, you know, he talks about being the, what did he say? He's the temperature between the other two.
There's fire and ice.
Right, so he's lukewarm.
Yeah, he's lukewarm water.
Which is the bassist in so many bands. Yeah. So Harry Shearer, Derek Smalls, I think is his name in the movie. He's, you probably recognize him from other stuff, but I didn't know he did a bunch of voices for The Simpsons.
Yeah, the Simpsons cast is 5 core people, and he's half of them.
Yeah, right. I knew Ned, and I knew the reporter's Kent right?
Brockman.
Yeah, don't watch The Simpsons. Yeah, so
then
that's all I know.
Smithers, he does Chief Wiggum.
I was surprised by Smithers.
Yeah,
I don't know why.
He's all over in that show.
Yeah, he's in there, and then Michael McKean is the singer.
Right.
And Rob Reiner is the
documentarian.
Do you remember what his name is in the Marty, right? Because they say the film is right, directed by him. So he's not part of the band, but is the documentarian. Sure. Rob Reiner, we talked about before when we did Misery, which was a strange.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was a weird.
That's right.
I don't think we talked about how weird that was for Rob
him.
Reiner's
Yeah.
career. Doing
Because he's a comedy.
Well, he did, The Princess Bride
Yeah.
and a lot of that stuff in the 80s, Stand By Me, then to see him do Misery. And I guess this is a little bit of a departure from that too.
Yeah.
But a guy who kind of will work in any genre where he finds an interesting project.
Sure. Well, this also isn't the first time we've seen Michael McKean, Christopher Guest, and Harry Shearer all together on
Really?
double feature.
Well, when was the other?
Small Soldiers.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Wow. Yeah,
Spinal
all of those
Tap
guys.
does the voices of the Gorgonites
Yeah,
in
yeah.
Small Soldiers. They all kind of lend their. It's one of the reasons I was
You
excited
told
to
me
see
that
Spinal
on
Tap.
that show.
Yeah.
You told me that when we were planning this for this year. You told me that before we watched the film, and I still fail to remember it every time.
Spinal Tap plays everybody except for Archer, who
Sure.
I think is Frank Langella. I don't.
It'd be fun to go back and watch that now that
Oh,
I've
yeah.
seen Spinal Tap and kind of hear those voices. So I wanted to ask you, being a musician, how much of a similarity you see between, I'm kind of interested in the line where this, obviously it's making fun of these band members, but I feel like it's making fun of kind of that lifestyle as a whole
Yeah.
a little bit more.
It really, so I hate when people liken things to The Office, because the one thing I hate about the TV show The Office,
Mhm.
and there's a few things I don't like, but I don't hate the show, is that everybody says, "Oh my God, it's just like where I work," and as if they don't realize that's
Sure.
why the show is popular.
Sure, right.
The
right.
reason the show is popular is because it's just like where everyone works.
Right.
But that's the case with Spinal Tap. Is the reason Spinal Tap is popular is it's just like every band.
It's just like where you work, Michael.
Yeah, it's every band has shocking similarities to Spinal Tap. There's always a member that you keep replacing.
Yeah, right.
For me, it's the keyboardist.
Sure, sure.
There's always the member like the keyboardist of Spinal Tap who you don't even know where they come from.
Yeah.
They just show up and then play shows and then talk
then they
weird and you're
disappear.
not friends with them.
Yeah, right.
And there's the two guys that constantly butt heads and write the majority of the music.
Sure.
And then there are, in my case, multiple, but then there's the Derricks who facilitate the two people that argue the most.
Right, yeah.
And try to, massage the creative process.
Sure.
Um,
Sure, right.
It's really just people getting mad and people having these grand plans that never come to full fruition.
Sure.
And
That's an interesting dynamic. Do you think it changes at all as a band? Because we're introduced to them and we get this idea they're fucking huge.
Yeah.
And then as time goes on, it's kind of it's both revealed and they also become
sure
a smaller and smaller band.
Yeah, the thing is the film, it's a series of missteps.
Mhm.
It starts with, I think the first misstep is a reunion tour.
Yeah, okay.
Of a hair metal band, right?
Yeah.
Although it was the 80s. And then you have the album art with the sexy
right.
shove the glove, kiss the glove, smell the glove.
Yeah, smell the glove.
Smell the glove.
Good job.
And then, so there's that misstep, and the shows keep getting canceled, and, you bring on the new manager. But I think I like the dynamic of, especially like the cover art. It's because it's a metal band that they have the logo, the brand
Sure.
of the way the Spinal Tap with the umlau, and it looks like knives.
Yeah.
It makes them seem huge.
Sure.
That's just your initial reaction. Plus, they have the hair and the rock star facade.
Sure.
And the big skull.
It's all that brutal legend stuff.
Yeah,
It feels
perfect.
epic. It feels huge.
But then they're playing in hotels and
right.
airport
right.
hangars.
Anywhere they can with
Yeah.
puppets.
Yeah, with or without puppets.
Toward the end. It's weird. I remember I was in a band in high school for, months. Not even long enough to remember names of our songs. But in the 5 or whatever shows that we played, I probably encountered similar experiences in all of this. And at no point are we playing arenas. We're a band in high school. We couldn't even make it to our own Battle of the Bands.
Sure.
Right? But you show up to play a show, you get a huge idea about what it's going to be. You land there and you're with puppets.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah. No, that's exactly what happens.
In fact, that seemed to be how every single one of our shows went, is
Yeah.
that we were always with puppets on the day where we arrived.
that's a huge part of it, is showing up and being disappointed.
But you still treat it like it's huge.
Well, and you treat it like it's serious, and you treat
If 5 people show up, it's still you
Sure.
got to play
Well,
the show.
The thing about being in a band is you treat every situation like it's make or break.
Right, yeah.
You treat every situation like this is the moment that we're finally going to make it.
You could make it, yeah.
Yeah. And that's what happens.
Well, Michael,
throughout
you
this
never know
film.
who's in the audience. I mean,
Yeah.
it could be anybody.
Yeah.
Thinking about a band as a unit, I mean, all of these different things are interesting about it to me. The other one is, we're mocking these guys. Anytime you are making fun of a group of people, thinking back to other, kind of farcical comedies, it's because they're terrible at what they do.
Right.
And I don't think Spinal Tap, they're certainly not writing serious music or anything
Sure.
that's going to go down as greatest songs ever written. But I remember that scene where they're at Elvis's grave.
Yeah.
And they can harmonize on the spot. I mean, they're
Yeah.
trying to figure out where the harmonies rest, and
Yeah.
if one sounds a little more, what was it?
I can't remember, but I know.
He's basically making fun of kind of the scale that the
yeah,
guy's
he's
using for
making
the
fun of
harmony.
his harmonic choices.
Right? Yeah, they're technically proficient, let's say,
Yeah.
at what they do. And for a movie that you think is kind of describing people as buffoons and, showing all of their weakest moments.
Yeah.
Right. It's the same thing reality TV does now without being scripted.
Sure.
It takes totally normal people who probably aren't the dumbest people you've ever met, but then shows their worst moments where they say things that are blisteringly
Right.
stupid. And so I kind of wonder, is there anything to be respected of the fictional group that is Spinal Tap, or are they just technically proficient? Is that just something that happens with musicians?
Well, I think with Spinal Tap specifically, you think they're a bunch of dorks, and going back to the unscripted thing, probably just speaking off the cuff. I think a lot of this film is fucking
it is.
ad-libbed.
Oh, it's totally ad-libbed. Yeah. This is one of the few times you get a mockumentary that's ad-libbed that people think is ad-libbed and actually is.
Yeah.
You were just talking about The Office.
Yeah.
It got really big because everybody went, oh, cool,
They
ad-libbed
just
show.
wing it. But it's all
not
scripted,
at
super
all,
scripted.
which is a total insult to the people
Yeah, but
the poor
that's-
people who write it.
That's Ricky Gervais technique. I mean, anytime you see Ricky Gervais in a film and he does stutters and pauses and starts a sentence and stops,
Sure.
he wrote that.
Oh, Merchant's the same
That's-
way.
yeah.
Both of those guys. It's Pilkington who's ad-libbing because that's really all that's up there.
But going back to a different power trio,
Oh, right.
Spinal Tap on stage is always motherfucking Spinal Tap.
Sure.
Even in a shitty room with a shitty sound system,
Right.
they still look and sound so badass
God.
and so kingly among, these other fucking musicians and
Yeah.
peasants around them and little dwarven people
Sure.
dancing around Stonehenge.
I'm so jealous of people with that just
Dwarfs.
ooze musical talent like that.
Yeah.
Because you can find people who are complete burnouts, have literally no skill in life, and are great musicians.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm a simpleton, and yet it's hard for me to write music. You and I did our theme. I did all the music for
Right.
it, and it's 30 seconds long, and it took me fucking 2 years or something to. I mean, I have to work at it. It's hard.
Yeah.
I can do it. It's really fucking hard. Some people get together and you go, how does this person tie their shoes? But they can write a song.
Yeah.
Oh man, can they write a song?
It's one of those things, like writing music, art in general it's a lot of it is just, I don't want to say, and I don't believe.
Are you
that-
going to say accidental?
No, well, partially, but I don't believe that art is the kind of thing that you're born with or that is just in you.
Sure.
I think people who are proficient at art understand it on a level more fundamentally than people who don't get it.
Okay.
Somebody who knows how to paint
Yeah.
understands what they're creating a lot more technically and in a different perspective than the average person.
Sure.
They get how the colors work. They're aware of where shading goes. They know you don't use lines.
Sure.
Things that people just take for granted. They just understand because
Yeah.
of the way they learned it or the way they see it. And that's how a prodigy in an art comes to be, is they just understand that art form in a particularly exceptional way. But they're not born with any special ability.
Sure.
It's
sure.
not handed down. My dad was a great guitarist, so now
Yeah,
I'm a great
right,
guitar. No, it
right.
doesn't. It comes from your understanding of the subject. If your dad was a great guitarist, you probably were exposed to that when you were young.
Sure.
And you get it on a different level because you've been seeing it for so long.
Sure. Well, and sometimes things are picked up because of kind of societal reasons
Yeah,
or trend.
sure.
Hair metal in general, right?
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything really profound about hair metal. But if it's written in, say, a vague enough way,
Yeah.
it becomes a top show. We talked, I don't remember on what show, I was talking about the marketability of Jason Mraz, right? And that, if you speak generally and vaguely enough or about certain topics that are consistent through all of humanity, everybody goes, wow, I can identify with that.
Sure.
Someone else feels this way. So, there is some combination of you have enough talent to create music, but also the things you want to say either appeal to other people, or maybe, maybe you can't tie your shoes, but you have interesting things going on in your head.
Yeah.
And as long as you can express those, then you become a musician people seek out.
Yeah, well, and speaking on hair metal, I think that hair metal is one of the biggest things in music to just solely exploit a genre.
You think so?
Well, I think Kiss happened. And then a bunch of people went, if we look scary, we don't have to be that good.
Yeah. Well, Rebellion, and we'll talk about that a little bit with Ramones.
And that's what it becomes, is you start catering to the audience that likes to see these big images, going back to what you were saying, stuff they can identify with, deep-rooted social, societal things.
Right.
And you see these big guys with their grand hair and elaborate costumes, and you think, like, it's just, you see them and you think that they are putting out these, huge, epic things, this epic art.
Right.
And you can latch onto that because you don't have to even know what the lyrics are to know that it feels like you're winning.
Yeah. Icons of rock.
Yeah.
Monsters of rock.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Even though when we're talking about icons here, it's 3 guys, a mystery keyboard player, and a rotating drummer. What did they say, 37 people or something
37
that were in the band? Talking about the drummer and the law of averages. I also like the law of averages as a concept. I believe it states that people are most likely to invoke the law of averages only if they have no real understanding of the law of averages. I've never actually heard that in a useful place, only by people to basically sound science-y when they're saying, oh, it should all average out.
Yeah.
But that's another one of those things too, the drummer disappearing or the rotating member. That does seem to be a thing that happens, especially in big bands, big rock stuff. When you see a band kind of get taken over by a record company, or maybe not even taken over. I mean, I kind of think of, the difference between an independent movie and a huge produced blockbuster theatrical movie. A band that would play smaller venues versus a band that plays arenas. Yeah. And once that stuff kind of gets rolling, so much of it becomes under the hands of the record label. So, somebody gets out and I always think about Evanescence when that stuff happens because their lineup changed so many times. I mean, that's true of so many big bands, but Evanescence came out with an album. They had 5 members and then people realized, well, everyone recognizes the singer, Amy Lee, right? Fucking pop icon, pop rock icon, on MTV and stuff. We can change out the other 4 members. Yeah. No one will notice. Sure. There's probably been 37 people. Yeah, it's true.
And there are bands. I mean, look at something like Linkin Park. Do you remember Linkin Park came out?
Yeah, sure.
It was Mike Shinoda, Chester Bennington, and then 3-4 guys that looked similar. One of them had earmuffs.
Sure.
As long as that guy had earmuffs when they got a new guy,
right?
You wouldn't know.
Have they changed the lineup? I wouldn't know.
I don't know. I think they're a techno band now. I think Mike Shinoda left.
Okay. No, that's Julian K. That's Orgy, right?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, no, you're right, because Chester Bennington does stuff on Julian K., which is Orgy. Yeah. We're starting to slowly drift back into territory, I understand.
Yeah, well, Chester Bennington is busy being in the Saw films.
And, that's right, too.
And something else.
And we've brought things back to films. Way to go, double feature.
Oh, he was also in Crank, too, wasn't he?
So maybe the record label is the one going, quick, plug another member in there.
Sure.
I mean, I love by the end of the film, a drummer disappears and another one just reappears on stage. Yeah. They just have them waiting in the wings.
So we have a second film today, which is, I mean, so we talked about hair metal and how hair metal is about rebellion. But rebellion is actually, I believe, inscribed in the halls of punk rock.
Yeah. Right.
That is where musical rebellion lives.
Right.
And the Ramones are the hair metal band of punk rock.
Yeah, so tell me about, I want to know, before we talk about this movie at all.
Okay.
Here's what I knew about the Ramones before.
Okay, yeah.
They come in monochromatic black and white.
Yep.
So when I saw them in a color film and they were moving around, first of all, there's something to be said about that because a lot different than the picture I had in my head of the Ramones. I also know every Ramones song, and I've never listened to one of their albums
Yeah.
because they're fucking everywhere. But I kind of wanted to know your stance, just so everyone will get angry and email us. I grew up thinking I grew up far after the Ramones.
Sure.
I was not a person who actually had the Ramones in high school. I probably experienced that secondhand as a bunch of people who remember back to their parents basically had the Ramones in high school. I remember the Ramones being, oh, that's where punk started.
Yeah.
And I kind of grew up never challenging that idea. But you say the closest thing to hair metal.
Yeah, the Ramones are really the Ramones.
Where do they fit in the punk scene? Am I already offending people by calling the Ramones punk rock, or is that probably fair?
Anybody who's going to argue with the Ramones being a punk band can fuck off, because punk is a mindset.
Sure.
Plus, the Ramones are definitely a punk band, even with just the way they play guitar. It's all power chords. It's 4-chord rock. It's a lot of repeating, a lot of chanting.
Accessibility, right?
Well, see, that's the differentiation. Punk is not supposed to be accessible.
Oh, interesting.
When punk first started in the late 70s, and there was something, I mean, it started accessibly. There's stuff like when it came over from the UK, notably the Sex Pistols.
Sure.
That's accessible.
That seems like a more
There's
legitimate
melodies,
origin of punk.
it's catchy. God Save the Queen, Anarchy in the UK. These are songs you can actually sing.
Right.
By the early 80s.
Not grunting sounds, angry, malnourished grunting sounds.
By the early 80s, you got into Bad Brains, The Damned, Black Flag. Black Flag has an album with no music.
Really?
Black Flag, it has they came out with this record 2 or 3 records in, where the first half of the record is Henry Rollins doing spoken word, and the second half of the record is instrumental tracks.
Wow.
Yeah, that's
was
punk.
not aware of that. See, when I think punk, I think, okay, so the rebellion thing is obviously huge for me when you talk about being more a mindset than a genre. But I also think about this kind of riot idea.
Sure.
This kind of
playing on
protest.
the floor.
Well, yeah, that. I mean, that's why I think accessibility, because I think about chanting. I think about everybody can get together that can play this song. It's a fucking riot song.
But the accessibility of punk, again, is not the music, it's the mindset.
Okay,
and if you go to a Bad Brains show, if you went to a Black Flag show back in Washington, D.C. when they first kicked off, you would walk in the room, and just like I was saying with Spinal Tap, you didn't know what they were singing, but you knew they were pissed, and you knew who they were pissed at.
Sure.
And you were pissed too.
Sure.
It
That'll
didn't
show 'em.
It didn't matter if you could sing along.
Right.
But the thing about punk is that eventually it became not about melodies. It became about... That's why I think Henry Rollins is such a huge punk icon, because he divorced himself from melodies so early. It became about the words. It became about being able to say things.
Sure.
And the Ramones are a surf pop band.
Right.
Masquerading as a punk band, because they're still about rebelling against adults. But Black Flag has a song called Gimme, 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 and it's about, wanting to fucking blow shit up.
Right.
That's the song. I mean, there's a line, I know the world's got problems, I've got problems of my own, they're not the problems that can't be fixed by an atom bomb.
Yeah.
That's a Black Flag lyric. Perfect Circle did the cover. And then the Ramones, their big rebellion hit is Rock and Roll High School.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like, the Ramones are a surf pop band that managed to have some anti-establishment, vibe, and parents didn't like them because they looked weird and they were dirty.
Sure.
And they wore leather and tore jeans.
Right.
They were basically the rock and roll version of the Ninja Turtles.
Well, that's the thing, is knowing that punk can go to some dark places.
Yeah.
And then seeing the Ramones, literally only seeing them as their branding shows them in black and white. The thing that surprised me as I'm watching them in the movie is they're all cute and awkward, but maybe more awkward than cute.
Very.
But it's very consumable, and then it's awkward. Let's just lean on that awkward word for a moment.
But that brings me to a point that I want to make about the film in regards to anything. So Dee Dee Ramone, the bassist, very weird in this movie. But regardless, Dee Dee Ramone was a punk bassist. He OD'd and died. That's fucking punk, I mean,
that's what punk bassists do.
Yeah,
that's what rock musicians do.
I'm not condoning doing drugs and killing yourself, but I'm saying if you want something emblematic of the Ramones that says they're still a real punk band, their bassist OD'd.
Yeah,
that's rock. I mean, that's a symbol of rock and roll.
No, I see what you're saying.
And
it gives them a check back in that column.
And that's what I was really trying to get at by trying to get Rock and Roll High School on the show, is because it's an exploitation film. New World Pictures It's,
Sure.
you know, Roger Corman's late 70s troupe, Joe Dante, Alan Arkish, Paul Bartel, Mary Warrenoff. You know, it's these people that are doing all these exploitation. Piranha came out at the same time.
Yeah.
That was just Jaws.
Yeah.
It's just that kind of thing. But I feel like they're all in their 30s. You know, they're all in their 30s and 40s.
Sure.
They're not in touch with high school.
They're not the kids that star in this
They're
movie.
trying to exploit the idea of the rock and roll rebellion going on in the youth,
Sure.
but they're still out of touch.
Right.
And so it's by watching the film and really enjoying it the way I enjoy it, I feel like I'm exploiting their failure to exploit.
Yeah.
Does that
yeah.
make sense?
Yeah, no, I hear you.
It's-
This isn't the Ramones make Rock and Roll High
right.
School. It's a bunch of people who put the Ramones
Yeah,
in a
exactly.
movie
And so
called
they
Rock and Roll
they
High
don't,
School.
they're, I mean, the example I gave you is if you made a movie and you were trying to show that the Ramones were, you know, against the establishment and fuck the man, how early in the set do they play the KKK took my baby away?
Well, if that's your goal.
Well,
right?
yeah.
If that's your goal.
That's what I mean. But the thing is it's the exploitation, the bottom line is the bottom line. As much as we hate to admit it, especially in the 70s, you need to make a profit on the film.
Sure.
And parents won't let their 18-year-olds go see the KKK took my baby away.
Right.
But parents will let their 18-year-olds go see PJ Souls rock around and
Sure,
get the most
sure.
attentions in school ever, and she's nicer than anybody I've met in high school.
Yeah, true punk seems to fall more in that Abel Ferrara kind of
Yeah.
the dirty New York.
Yeah.
But I mean, I throw around something like true punk. I just think that's the darker side of things. That's when
Sure.
it gets in really deep and heavy.
Yeah, well,
I don't mean to say anything bad about when I say the Ramones are accessible. I mean that in the same way that Hairspray was about revolt.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that Hairspray was deep or dark or quote unquote true punk, but it's still fucking brilliant.
Well,
I
and
mean, what's great about it is the accessibility.
that's the subversion.
Yeah.
Is if you can get it in, the Ramones are the gateway drug to punk.
Sure,
You know,
sure.
that's why I love thinking of punk being bookended by the, you know, Sex Pistols, Ramones, because
Yeah.
those are the accessible
Sure.
ones. The Sex Pistols are so accessible.
Right.
I mean, it's really difficult not to like the Sex Pistols, and it's really difficult not to find something you like in the Ramones.
Yeah.
Blitzkrieg Bop, Rob Zombie did the cover. It's not going anywhere.
Sure.
Blitzkrieg Bop is possibly one of the most known punk songs ever.
There's some staying power to these
Yeah.
songs, is what you're saying.
And that's something that TV Party or Salt on a Slug by
Mhm.
Black Flag.
Mhm.
Name a Black Flag song. Exactly. Your hands are up in the air.
This
No,
is me
you
shrugging
can't.
over here.
Black Flag fans can name Black Flag songs.
Yeah.
Human beings can name Ramones songs. Human beings know Never Mind the Bollocks, here's the Sex Pistols.
Sure. I know Videodrone songs that reference Black Flag.
Yeah.
And that's all I got.
I mean, I don't mean to get into the music, but I think that's a lot of the mentality of what's great about this film is it's the rebellion and the failure to rebel, and that failure being why the Ramones are the perfect poster child
Sure.
for rock and roll high school.
Sure.
You couldn't have because they would ruin the credibility of something like The Damned or something like the Dead Kennedys.
Yeah.
And they probably wouldn't have done the film.
Yeah.
But the Ramones are
Well, it would be something darker, like
Yeah.
I was talking about, you know.
this is the same troupe that's, you know, like I said, putting out Piranha this year.
Yeah.
This is when Roger Corman started getting into producing all those weird teen space dramas.
Sure.
Night of the Comet.
Sure.
And
And we have some Dick Miller from
Yeah.
A Bucket of Blood. You
Right.
know, we're seeing that. I mean, this is, especially when we get into like the Eagle Bauer
Yeah,
character,
yeah.
a lot of really good
Clint
characters in this movie. Clint Howard, who was Ricky in those Silent Night, Deadly Night films.
Yeah.
And he's, you know, he's tiny in this movie, so young and tiny, but his face is, there's no mistaking him, not a chance. A lot of times you see younger actors in slasher movies or whatever, and you go, oh, is that him? Not the case
Yeah.
with Clint Howard, not the case at all. But his stuff where he's in that stall office is some of the most iconic sections of the movie.
I love it.
But you can read into a lot of that sort of post Caddyshack, Ferris Bueller's Day Off sort of era of, you know, a Revenge of the Nerds character.
Yeah.
When 80s, I mean, this is 79,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Over the next 10 years, you would get all of that rebel against school, sort of goofy, physical, kind of dirty humor of a lot of these movies that you see from this character. But it's way an exploitation film, too. I mean, you nailed that. It's kind of the genre that never was of
Sure.
exploitation film. And really, even when we saw this stuff later copied, it lost a lot of the elements. But the kind of unlikely ally of the music teacher,
Right. Yeah, I
you know,
love that.
who-
And that's Paul Bartel, who directed Death Race 2000.
awesome. Yeah, another exploitation
Yeah.
film, right?
Another Corman film.
of a well-established genre or subgenre or whatever you want to call it of exploitation. Usually, when you get these kind of movies, it's all kids resist against the adults,
Yeah.
shame the adults, show how dumb the adults are. But here, we have this kind of warden of a principal.
Sure.
Another big. I mean,
She's wonderful.
all of those scenes are so women in prison,
Oh,
aren't
yeah.
they?
Oh, yeah.
They're all
Oh, yeah.
the warden
Dead
character
on.
from. This is like Roger Corman snuck in
Yeah.
an exploitation film under the radar. The music teacher likes music, so of course he's going to be their ally. And then the parents are all. They're kind of middle ground,
Well, they let them
whatever.
burn
They
the
don't like
records.
it.
They're kind
Yeah,
of
right.
they're lukewarm water.
Yeah, exactly what I was thinking. And then the warden.
Yeah.
The warden is the evil antagonist of the film. By comparison, anybody else just completely pales.
But this is the kind of evil, comparatively, and I'm glad you brought up the women in prison thing, because this gives me a really, really good jumping off point to talk about something I wanted to mention.
Excited.
And so Corman got started. We've talked about Corman pretty extensively. He did these women in prison films, and, you know, he was in charge of doing a lot of the blaxploitation stuff, a lot of dark, a lot of gritty, a lot of sex, you know, a lot of blood and violence, and that's what was selling in the, you know, $2 down the street theater
Sure.
for a weekend. The reason Rock and Roll High School, Piranha, Night of the Comet, all these movies that he started doing in the late 70s and early 80s become tamer
Mhm.
is because the film game started changing. They started doing wide releases. You started getting multiplexes in the movie theater.
Sure.
Film became a family thing.
Yeah.
And then video.
Yeah.
And films like fucking The Big Birdcage, films like Women in Cages, films like The Switchblade Sisters,
Mhm.
those aren't films that you're going to buy and
Right.
put home in your collection
Right,
of films. I mean, I do.
Sure.
But
Now we do.
sure, but Corman's thing is making the film that will sell. You're going to sell a lot more of Rock and Roll High School with the cute little, oh, she's kind of rebellious, but she's also
Sure.
adorable.
Sure.
You appeal to a wider audience
Sure.
while still being exploitative in that it's about, you know, going against the authority. But it's never going to be as dirty and gritty as it was when there wasn't. I mean, I feel like almost you have evidence of it. You know, you can go buy the video. It's like you have evidence of how
Sure.
fucked up the movie is.
Sure, right.
You have to clean up your act if people are going to take it home to their mom.
Yeah, but you still see the elements of trying to mass appeal
Yeah,
and make a buck.
absolutely.
And, you know, I keep thinking back to the John Waters thing because of the elements that both of them are sharing. John Waters is somebody we talked about another genre of exploitation on one of those early shows, that kind of housewife exploitation. I really like the idea
Yeah.
of just creating these. I mean, not even just the housewife one, but I guess just shotgun approach to exploitation. Let's just make as many genres and see which new.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're really trying to make money in the exploitation game, then, well, I'm going to come up with a new kind of exploitation. And here's how I'm going to do that. I'm going to just exploit every single thing I can think of, one per movie, and eventually something will stick, whether that's the rock and roll high. I mean, rock and roll high school is really the name of the genre too,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah.
It's, you know, rebelling against your high school authority through rock music.
Right. And then you lose the tickets that you rightfully earned.
Yeah.
And you have to get them from the radio.
Yeah.
But you finally make it to Detroit to see where are we? Ramones.
Yeah. It's amazing what a blueprint this was for that movie, and I'm sure other movies we haven't seen too. Another character that's important to exploitation is the DJ, and not just the radio call-in DJ here, but PJ Souls, who is kind of in the more localized version.
Yeah.
You seem like you're a big PJ Souls fan.
You know, it's weird because again, the whole show today to me is about ideas that are purported by these emblems.
Yeah.
And PJ Souls, I love for the idea of PJ Souls.
Sure.
What I love about PJ Souls is she comes in, she owns the film. She is so much Riff Randall.
Yeah.
That is just who she is for an hour and a half.
Sure.
And then she disappeared. Where the fuck did PJ Souls go? I mean, she's gone. She showed up again in Devil's Rejects. So did Mary Warrenoff, for the record.
Yeah, right. You know who didn't show up there is Leslie Ann Powers.
Yeah.
Still has not emailed me. Might as well bring up John Waters one more time before we get out of here. If you want to talk about Where Are They Now? The Where Are They Now from
Where Are They
Spinal
Now
Tap.
files?
Yeah, the internet is supposed to fix this problem.
The internet would have fixed problems throughout Spinal Tap as well.
This is kind of your thesis on the issue. I don't know why no one has told me what happened to Leslie Powers. I just want to know.
And albums have been written about where is PJ Souls.
Albums?
The Local H record, Local H from Chicago.
Sure.
They wrote an album entitled "Whatever Happened to PJ Souls."
So they're curious about these questions too.
And the cover
People
art
wanna
is
know.
lifted from Rock and Roll High School.
Yeah.
Highly suggest just image searching the cover art for that because it's awesome.
I'll link to it if I don't get too lazy. PJ's a character. I mean, even so, I don't know the actor's name who plays Tom, but
it's Vince Van Patten.
yeah. So there's that scene where he's talking on the phone, and he's sort of a nonsense fucking throwaway character in one of these movies.
He's supposed to be, but they give him more screen time than that character should have.
Well,
So it makes
he's
it
talking on the
hilarious.
phone. He's trying to identify which one he is. Of course,
Yeah.
no one knows. And they make a joke about it, and they do it so well because they don't really beat it into the ground, but they bring it up often enough for you to know that they know.
Are you talking about Idaho?
He says, "Oh, I'm Tom. Tom, the football player. I talk about the weather a lot."
Yeah.
They basically make an interesting character out of how boring he is. And then there's the mouse thing.
Yeah,
too.
that's a weird
Whatever that's
aspect
about.
of surrealism that I think was trying to latch on again to the youth.
Sure.
I think that was a stab at it was the adult filmmakers taking a stab at 18-year-old, they love things in costumes.
Sure.
Yeah, because think about what's on TV right now. HR Puff and stuff. That wasn't out yet.
I
But
don't know.
Sesame Street, probably something. I'm sure there was something with people in big plush costumes that weren't having sex
Steamboat
with each
Willie
other.
is what you want.
Huh?
That's the Steamboat Willie.
Yeah.
You go all the way back to the first Mickey Mouse. That's how you save yourself on that one.
But
Children like big animated things.
and so
Yeah.
I think that was just an absolute failed ploy of.
Sure.
but the thing is,
It does make it weird, though. It makes it fucking weird.
it makes it weird, but it does pack one hilarious joke, which is that they blow up.
Right.
I mean, like the
Right.
drummers of Spinal Tap,
Sure.
the rats explode due to rock and roll overload. And
Sure.
that's funny no matter how big the rat is or where it is.
It's almost irreverent humor. It's
Sure.
almost just why is a mouse exploding?
Yeah.
The thing that Rock and Roll High School gets so everybody else take note. People who make music films, especially for a movie about what it's about, when they do that song Pinhead,
Yeah.
right? They're playing. It's not the Detroit Rock City. We finally made it to the
Sure.
stadium. They're not playing in the giant concert hall that basically the thing that Spinal Tap is making
Yeah.
fun of. The sort
Right.
of
Yeah. Perfect.
how epic these bands have become and the style of those documentaries, especially in I wouldn't just say in the 80s, into the 90s too.
Sure.
You have it a lot less now, I think. Maybe we're just
Well,
done
eventually
with that.
it turned
but-
into festivals. Like,
well, no,
that's
I
what
meant
it is now.
the style of the documentary being about how huge these guys are
Yeah.
and how gigantic,
Well, they're the fucking Ramones.
the Ramones are not playing the
They're
stadium.
playing CBGBs. They're
Exactly.
playing a little dinky black box nightclub.
They are, yeah. It's a tiny rock club. It's got a low ceiling. Not that many people fit in it. It looks super uncomfortable. You don't even really need any kind of amplification to hear all the way to the back
Sure.
of, it's the kind of thing where they could all stop and play an unmiked acoustic song
Yeah.
and everybody could fucking hear them. And then the way they shoot it too is awesome. The camera's right in Joey's face. It's just, you get this idea that it's claustrophobic.
Yeah, and that's so punk rock to me. Like,
Yeah,
I
that's
feel like
how I want to see music
Yeah,
too. It's
yeah.
also the only
Well,
venue
yeah.
I want to see music in.
I like sloshing around in other people's sweat.
Perfect. Exactly what you paid to see.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that I think makes the Ramones what they were, and why I get this idea of them as being less approachable before I knew anything, before realizing this is kind of the pet the white cat of this particular breed of music, or this particular breed of film. We get back to that club and things are scaring me again. I mean, in the best way possible.
Right.
So the website you can go to is doublefeatureshow.com to see if I posted a picture of some. I don't even remember what I was supposed to post already. And the email address to remind me when it's too late is doublefeatureshow@gmail.com. We have a Facebook, I suppose, and an iTunes, and also movies that are happening next time on the show. Lots of movies.
Yeah, we
next
have
time.
lots of movies.
It's Killapalooza time.
It is, and we're doing, here we go again, doing a fantastically innovative version of Killapalooza.
Oh, look at us.
We're going to go ahead and do a fucking foreign Killapalooza.
Oh no.
Yeah, we're gonna do the I.
Is it too late to change that?
No,
Oh,
because I
God.
just said it and it's recorded.
Fuck. I'd have to edit that out, and
Yeah.
then we'd have to dub something else
All right,
in.
watch more fucking film.
Bye. Eugene Levy
Yeah,
writes basically all of those.
Yeah.
With Christopher Guest. I don't think any Eugene Levy here. Not
no,
yet.
definitely not in Spinal Tap.
Yeah, but then shows up in all of these other movies. So he's kind of the rare exception.
Yeah,
To a lot of the actors that would continue to work with Christopher Guest in the other movies. I guess a little less Rob Reiner and a little more
Yeah.
Eugene Levy.
well, and I think that's a lot of the mechanic is having somebody else to help him write and kind of, because the thing is it's a matter of if it ain't broke,
Don't
fix
it.
it.
Right.
So if something like Spinal Tap happens and everybody in the fucking world thinks, I mean, there are people going around touting best film of all time.
Yeah. Right.
What was that review you were telling me about?
Well, and it's not alone. There's a IGN review that's 11 out of 11. I
Yeah.
think. I'm pretty sure IMDb has it listed
Yeah,
the
I
same
remember-
way. There's Rotten Tomatoes doesn't, but they operate on a 5. What is it? A splat scale something.
Splats. I remember last year in November of 2011, on the 11th of November, everybody was touting Nigel Tuffman Day.
Oh yeah.
It is Nigel Tuffman Day today. Everybody's shouting from the roof. I saw a bunch of shit on the internet, but
It's weird. I feel like fans almost do the film a disservice by picking out the 11 joke.
the 11 joke is the weakest part of the film.
it's the broad comedy.
Yeah, it is. Because I was telling you, because this is the second time I've seen it ever.
Mhm.
And the things that stand out to me are, first off, the 2 songs, Big Bottom Girls or whatever it's fucking called.
That's
Big
definitely-
Bottom.
Well, boys, looks like you started the fun without me.
You're all sick. Every last one of you.
We're going to need a bigger gun.
What's the matter? You scared of things that go boom, boom?
Give me one goddamn reason why I shouldn't blow your goddamn brains all over that goddamn wall.
My name is Eric, and I'm here today with resident musician Michael Kester
Oh, yeah, I guess that does apply today.
for another episode of Double Feature.
Yeah.
It's a live music that makes things explode episode of
Yes.
Double Feature.
Wow.
It's not spontaneous. There's a cause.
Yeah,
to
you
the
really honed
explosion.
it in.
We have some cult musical comedies
Yeah.
today.
It's
What
another one.
are those?
We're going to do This Is Spinal Tap and then Rock and Roll High School.
So if you haven't seen these two movies, pretty infamous movies.
Yeah.
I hadn't seen these two movies.
You hadn't seen either of them?
I hadn't seen either of them. Can you believe that?
Huh.
Yeah. We got a Christopher Guest movie. We have a fucking Ramones movie. I have
Yeah.
not seen either of these
Yeah.
films. If you are like I once was,
Well, yeah, there
then
you go.
you want to use the chapters built into our show to skip over the film you haven't seen. Or if you just don't want to hear us talk about one of the films,
Mm-hmm.
also possible.
If
If you
you've-
find that this show is sucking at some point,
Right.
you can hit skip and you can go to the next part of the show where hopefully we will have picked up our game a little bit.
Yeah,
Sounds like a legitimate plan.
I think so.
It'll probably still suck at that point. I mean, if it just goes downhill from here. Once we get past the chapters, I don't really know what we're doing from there. This part, I feel like I've gotten pretty good. After this, I got nothing. So we'll. Sometimes you make documentaries about obscure stuff. Some of the best documentaries I can think of were things. Let's just even look at stuff we've done on the show, right? With King of Kong
Yeah,
pops
absolutely.
out immediately,
Sure,
or
and
something
that-
like Murder
yeah.
Ball.
Exit Through the Gift Shop.
Sure. They all tend. Well, Exit Through the Gift Shop. I mean, now we're kind of running the gamut here, right? Because Exit Through the Gift Shop, we're going to cover an entire genre of
Sure.
arts, an entire medium, really,
Right.
of art.
Whereas
And then you
King
you
of
move-
Kong is the Donkey Kong high score.
Yeah,
Murder
one
Ball.
specific
Yeah.
bookkeeper's Donkey Kong high score. So, you kind of make a documentary wherever you find a compelling story. And here I think you can almost feel these guys having these conversations and going, oh, there's something funny to that.
Yeah.
I think we could do something with that. And Spinal Tap comes really before any of those. Well, that'd be funny. I guess let's do a
Sure.
documentary about that. This is, it seems like a documentary epic.
Yeah, it does. And the thing about Christopher Guest movies, and that really transcends all of them, is he's got this. So we've talked about it with Rodriguez, Tarantino. The kind of, I don't know, the filmmaker.
He's got a troupe.
Yeah, it's a troupe. That's the word I was looking for. He's
It's
got
a group of people who
it's-
show up in all of these things.
Yeah, well, him and Michael McKean are pretty much the staples. And
Right.
Christopher Guest started directing shortly after this. He
Sure.
started directing the movies that they were writing. Rob Reiner tends to be involved. Harry Shearer tends to be in it.
You know who's strangely not in? I mean, you think back to like Best of Show or Waiting for Guffman or really all of the movies
Sure.
you mentioned. Eugene, not the name of the song,
What's it called?
but I don't know what it's called. It's
Big
probably
Bottom.
called Big Bottom. That's
With
the one. Yeah, it is Big Bottom because it's the one with the 3 basses.
no 4 basses.
Is it 4
Well,
basses?
he's got a double bass.
Oh, that doesn't count. no, he's got a double neck bass.
Yeah.
Double bass is Saint Anger, I
Right.
think.
Yeah.
Double bass.
So
Sorry, that's
So
how you
I'm
know it's
sorry.
metal, man. It's got a double
the
bass.
multiple bass thing like had me rolling with
Well,
laughter.
It sounds like the song is all bass.
No, it is. It is all bass.
So it's okay, right?
I don't know if you read in the credits because I was checking to verify, but all of the musicians on stage are performing.
Oh,
They
awesome.
recorded the songs,
Good, yeah.
so they're playing the songs.
Well, they've done live shows as Spinal Tap
yeah.
before, so clearly they know how to play the song.
So there's Big Bottom, which I love, and then I don't know the name of the song that they're playing. But
Can we also mention just briefly that having all bass is a fitting arrangement for a song
Yeah, what
called
the
Big
hell?
Bottom? It gives it this funny kind of
Yeah.
like double meaning.
It's hilarious.
I love that.
Oh.
Trey Parker and Matt Stone must be huge
Oh,
Spinal
yeah.
Tap fans.
Gotta
if
be.
for no other reason than the accomplishment of the film Spinal Tap. You know, a bunch of comedians get together, form
Yeah.
a band for this fake documentary that then becomes kind of a real documentary about the formation of a band for a fake documentary
Yeah.
because these guys then go off and create albums and, you know, play shows.
It's amazing. And then the other thing that I love is I don't remember the name of the song, but the one where Harry Shearer's character gets stuck in the cocoon.
Oh, start with This Is Spinal Tap from the 80s. This is our
Yeah.
80s film
This is
today.
an 80s flick. It's a cult film. It is one
I
of...
can call this Spinal Tap, right? No
yeah,
one's going to get
everybody's...
mad at
Yeah,
me.
Spinal Tap, totally
It's just
fine.
Spinal Tap. It's fine.
It's-
I'm pronouncing the umlaut. You can hear that
Yeah,
on the end, right?
yeah,
Okay,
absolutely.
good.
It's possibly one of the biggest cult films of all time. It's up there with Rocky Horror, though there's fewer people who dress up like it and
Right.
go throw bread at each other.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
Um,
Probably you could use some of the same costumes,
yeah,
I think.
it could
Specifically
change
if
over.
you play bass.
But Spinal Tap was one of the early Christopher Guest movies. Christopher Guest is he played Nigel Tufnell in this film,
Sure,
and he didn't
sure.
direct, but he wrote it with the other guys, with Michael McKean and Harry Shearer and
Yeah.
Rob Reiner. But Christopher Guest is notable as being that guy who makes those funny mockumentaries
Right.
that come out every 5 years.
Yeah, right.
Best in Show, A Mighty Wind. You know,
Yeah.
movies where people are doing
For your
typically.
consideration, man. You
Yeah.
can't forget that one.
That's the other one.
Yeah.
People are doing typically mundane things, and then goofy people are trying to have a good time with it.
Yeah, right.
I
I love, the subjects of these documentaries. You hear about these things, and it could either be an obscure documentary or it could be something he's made. You don't always come to the documentary going, well, that's about a funny topic.
Sure.
You know what I mean? This one is probably the most obvious for,
Yeah.
we'll make what did Rob Reiner's character call it?
Rockumentary.
Thank you. Rockumentary. Oh my God. But there's something like Best in Show, you find these things that